Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we're taking a look at Atal'dazar Mythic +0, and this is something that I've been waiting for a very long time. Now, before we get started, this is obviously taken directly from the live stream. I really don't like making videos in this way because obviously there's a lot of stuff on the screen that kind of clouds the discussion of the video, but you'll have to get used to it because this was one of the best experiences I've ever had in the video game World of Warcraft, and I can't help but share it. I can't help but make a proper video on this. So man, what a experience. It was frankly insane. We did 2 zeros over the course of about 4 hours on Saturday's live stream, and man, was it intense. This was obviously done on a character that had no business being, like, you know, it's really under geared is what I'm trying to say here. I was like 278 when I started this, something like that. The gear that drops from here is 340, so I'd say, I mean, you really should be at least like 315 coming into these. The way it works is 310 is normal. This is currently on the beta. We might talk a little bit about this, but yeah, it's probably going to change in some way, one way or the other. 310 is normal at 110. Okay, it's actually a pretty big jump from 119 to 120 is what I meant to say, not 110. At 119, it's like 278 or something like that. It's something weird. And then 120 is then 310. But anyway, 310 is normal, and then 325 is heroic, and then 340 is mythic. And boy, I'm definitely not prepared for this one way or the other, but man, do we have a lot of fun, almost because of that. I would say in spite of it, for sure. And I'm going to cut out almost all the trash in this dungeon because we don't pull a lot of it. There's not a lot to pull, frankly, and most of it's not any different. But I do want to talk a little bit about the trash on this side of the dungeon, and I'm going to talk about the trash on the other side of the dungeon as well. But the fact that we skip almost all of it really tells you everything you need to know. The trash in the dungeons that we've done on this weekend stream were unbelievably complicated. And the bosses were even worse. Pretty much every boss that we did, well, this one especially, I'm glad that I did this one because this one there's some very, very interesting stuff happening with the encounters. And the trash doesn't necessarily do too much different, but effectively there's a lot of mechanics added for heroic and mythic. It seems like heroic too. I don't know. It's difficult to tell exactly because heroic's so much easier, but mythic definitely has a lot more mechanics than on normal. So when, I made this video on normal how many months ago, we saw something that is going to be pretty much a watered down version of this, but at the same time the trash gets to be really difficult. And it's so I'm actually looking at this on screen. You'll see the people talking about it in the chat there on the stream too. What we're talking about right now is the fact that mythic zeros give 340 item level and heroic raids give 345. So yeah, I don't know even what to say about that, but regardless, that's why I said it's definitely going to change. We can make a whole nother video on that potential discussion alone, but we'll leave that up for now. I don't know. I want to talk about this dungeon because it's very unique, very rich. And like I said, the biggest problem with this dungeon when we made the video previously and just on normal version, the trash has a lot of mechanics that slow you down. Like, for example, that pack we just pulled, one of the mobs is like tethered to a totem. So you need to be able to kill the totem quickly. It's obviously going to slow the progression of the pack down. The pack or the mob itself is actually immune until you kill the totem. That's like 99% reduced damage or something like that. So not necessarily immune, but obviously not good. Then once you kill it, it starts like spewing goo. It's kind of a precursor to the boss. Boss is basically going to do that exact same thing. It's kind of like that on the other side of the dungeon too. There's a single trash mob that's basically got all the boss's mechanics tied to it. So that's cool. You kind of get a little look at it. I kind of like when they do that, but typically they do that more with raids. So I don't know. Anyway, at this point, somebody in the chat's like, oh yeah, I should make that shield guy your pet. There's the recommendation there. I did mind control undead. That is the shield, the guy who does the big AoE shields like we've been talking about over the last few months. Obviously, that is going to slow the pack down. So I figured, I'll get that, and it's going to give me a massive damage reduction. But unfortunately, the ability that does that is not actually there. The only thing that the mob can do when you mind control is it does its like shield bash ability. So then instead I mind controlled this big guy who's tethered to one of these things. And I was thinking if there was a way, earlier, what I probably should have done was taken one from earlier. And then we could have just not killed the totem. So control undead the big guy, not kill the totem, And then maybe the guy would be like unkillable. I don't know. I don't know if that would even matter, but one way or the other it would definitely save time. We don't have to kill a totem. But yeah, there's not a lot of undeads. I think those are really the only 2 undeads in here. There might be a couple others, but regardless, the fact that you can take him is pretty cool. But the best thing about him is, you'll see down there, he's got this ability that can stack. So this is actually pretty good damage. I mean, it's not going to do a ton, but it's definitely better than nothing. So here's already a great time for Death Knight utility. The fact that, you're taking a mob that's going to be able to do so much damage. So anyway, lots to talk about in the trash. Hopefully you guys have seen this live. If you did, then a lot more will be... There's a lot that I had to cut out. I mean, this took us almost 2 hours to do this dungeon. So we're going to take a look at the first boss, okay? The first thing that is different on Heroic and probably higher is these, whatever totems that are connecting to them, they have to die at the same time, which is insane. If they don't, this is actually insane. If they don't die at the same time, they start a regeneration cast, and if they get that cast off, they go to full health. So I don't know how people are going to deal with this in Mythic Plus. On top of that, the boss is going to jump around, potentially displace people from the totem, like you're seeing here. And then every about 15 seconds, he does a cast. If every time he does the cast, basically he does the cast, he applies a dot to you. Every second he's channeling the cast, he applies another stack of the dot. So basically the tank, or really anybody, but primarily the tank's job, kind of like on Seat, third boss in Seat. Everybody else, they'll be attacking things. And the tank, they can get the interrupts. So anyway, you want to interrupt as soon as possible. I did try to interrupt literally the second he began the cast, and it was insufficient. So now what you're going to see here in second phase is a very, very, very tightly tuned DPS race. And we have 2 tanks for this. The other guy is also a Death Knight, so he's playing blood a bit here. We're 2 tanking this, and you're going to see why. Frankly, I guess he probably could have just solo tanked it. I don't know. It didn't seem like it was needed. He's a lot more geared than me, and the only reason he's in the group was because there's so few people on the beta that it was like if we didn't group together, there just wouldn't be another group for everybody to run. So had to take what we can get here. But anyway, we do intentionally 2 tank this because the boss just hits really, 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 really hard. And I'm basically running out of CDs. I got Vamp Blood, Anti-Magic Shell a bit. I'm taking Tombstone now, which is actually really nice, per the recommendations of a couple people on the Death Knight discussion videos we made. Then, of course, you got Icebound, a couple other CDs. But when I'm tanking this boss for potentially 3+ minutes, no, it's just, that's that. We're not going to be able to survive it. It does a lot of damage. And I'm really under geared, like I said. No preparation, no potions, no flasks, nothing like that. So, but anyway, yeah, that's the main thing here is that, the coordination levels are so extreme in this dungeon on Mythic 0. And I know, like I said, a lot of it's because we're under geared. And not just me, but the whole group, really. Months from now or months from launch, it won't be hard at all. You'll just crush this place. But the mechanical fidelity of some of these encounters is really impressive. And the total package is difficult all around. I would say Mythic Plus is going to be interesting, and whatever they're changing with Tyrannical, I don't know, but regardless, these bosses won't be easy. They'll eventually, and this is why the system is so great, right? Last time when we were covering the Legion Alpha, I wasn't able to make predictions. I got a 340 piece, by the way. That's really good. I wasn't able to make predictions on the dungeons because had never been Mythic Plus. I'd only done challenge mode, and there's only the one difficulty. So some things were easy, some things were hard. But for, after all this experience with Mythic Plus, there's factual evidence here that this boss is going to be difficult at some point. No matter what your gear is, no matter what your coordination is, it's going to be extremely difficult. So now we're going to go down to the Dino. But finally, I just want to say on that previous boss was, you're going to have to do the mechanics right. And I don't know how you're going to expect 5 people who are not in Discord together to potentially attack all 3 of those totems at the right time. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so we're doing the Dino now. This guy came up with this guy was actually really good. These hunters are very good players. He came up with this really interesting strat. It makes it a lot easier. So basically, anytime you or the dinosaur runs over those bones, he summons an ad. And we knew the ads were going to just absolutely demolish us. So really cautious about that. We definitely don't want to deal with them. So, the first 2, whatever, get spawned, and then that's it. They should never spawn again because we're tanking them on the side here. These little buttresses on the wall kind of act as line of sight. So people could stand on the other side of the stairs to line of sight the fear, and then run the boss down through the water, you know? And yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's a really good strategy, and I don't know if that's what people are going to do in Mythic, but it's certainly better than what I've been doing on normal, where it's basically tank them in the dead center and potentially risk spawning tons of those skeleton things. It's actually, yeah, I wasn't able to fear that. I wasn't able to line of sight that fear, so that was not what you need to do. You actually have to get to the other side. But regardless, it's a bit convoluted. The thing about this fight, though, is it's not actually any different than it is on normal, at least to my knowledge. Maybe there's some interactions with the skeleton things, but we just didn't see them because we did this strategy. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing, obviously. And I wonder maybe there's like an achievement to spawn all the skeletons or something like that. But anyway, for Mythic Plus, I would say that this fight is fairly straightforward. Kind of reminds you of a fight like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like the worm fight in Neltharian's Lair. You know, there's basically a tank mechanic. There's like a damage mechanic, and then there's potentially some adds if you deal with them. If you deal with them right, they're not they don't complicate the encounter at all. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I can AMS one of the fears. I could just run over and line of sight it as well. Boss's hitbox is large enough that I could actually get to the other side of the these statue things like the skeletons, whatever these are, and not have to worry about it. But I don't know. Anyway, that was a weird little bug there. I was actually able to get under the stairs, and then the boss like pulled me into him, and there I actually line of sight it with this side of it. So he's basically like you see like he's kind of just in the middle of the stairs there. Hitbox is so big it's difficult to tell, but he's kind of just in the middle of the stairs. So I was actually able to hug the wall there. Kind of like I said, you can get under the stairs almost, and yeah, I guess you can line of sight it that way, but I don't know. This is obviously, I don't know. This is definitely not what people are going to be doing months from now. I'm sure there's going to be an even better strategy. Maybe not. Maybe this is the one, but yeah, it works really well. This fight is extremely simple, and nothing really new. There's not actually anything new to my summary. So, but anyway, we jumped down here after the second boss because basically what we did was I didn't know this, but if you open the gate on one side, it opens the gate on the other side as well. So that's news to me. I did not actually know that worked that way. I'm pretty sure it didn't work that way when I first started testing this dungeon. Now up here is, we basically skipped all the hard trash, which is interesting because that is, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what mob count is going to look like. That's the thing, I guess. But yeah, all the stuff that we talked about in the first video, we skipped essentially. So it is still going to be on this pack, and it's definitely going to make you, wish you could skip this as well. But yeah, there's basically, anyway, that's the mob that I was talking about. It's going to put down the blood patch, and you're going to have to stand in that, get the buff, and then when it heals, you could potentially prevent the heal, which is definitely going to be a lot more important on Mythic and Mythic Plus because the boss obviously is going to heal a lot more, has a lot more health. So anytime it's gaining health, you obviously are losing time and losing Mythic Plus, potential credit. So anyway, yeah, we got a couple mobs here. I don't know, they're breaking. I don't really see it. When I did it on Heroic, whatever the mobs that do the spin and I guess maybe we CC'd one of them. It's difficult to tell when I'm watching this back, but anyway, we'll talk about it again quick. Like the Confessor, or one of the mobs, like puts up a big shield. That obviously hasn't happened. One of the other mobs empowers the mobs. It's an interruptible ability, but when the shield's up, you can't interrupt it. And like I said, I haven't seen the shield in a long time, so I don't know if they removed that from the game or if that's on Mythic only. I don't know. I can't tell what's CC there. Maybe it's the Confessor. But anyway, shield's up, can't interrupt, and then it empowers the big melee guys to go spinning around. And their spin thing now shoots out fire as well as does AoE damage. So makes it extremely difficult to survive. If you watch the live stream when we did it on Heroic, we actually saw that the spinning thing happen. So I'm sure it does. I just don't know under what circumstances. But anyway, this trash here, the living side, the live trolls here are actually quite difficult. So I don't know. Was that the mechanic there? Maybe that was it. I'm not sure. But anyway, no, that's the priest one, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I guess maybe they changed the packs. I don't know. But either way, this side is definitely, if you don't need mob count and you could skip all that stuff, then there's really nothing to do here. But one interesting thing about this is that the boss is entirely different. It's like an entirely different encounter, and it's pretty cool because they start talking about it immediately, so we might as well get into it. But there's this ad that comes out, and I guess I'm not exactly sure what the function is because the only times I've done this on this elevated difficulty was with extreme coordination. Like I'm talking about real high coordination. You're going to see it in a second. The only time I've done it was with this type of group, so I don't really know exactly what it's after, but I'm pretty sure its function is to soak up the blood pools. So you basically either need to stun it, keep it away from the blood pools, kill it, one of the three, you know? It's going to eat all your blood pools if you don't do it. And I think there's only 5 total. There might actually only be 4 total, because a couple times you're going to see in the video here that it does look like we don't all get one multiple times. And I wouldn't know why that was. It was because the ad is being held at bay pretty easily. So I don't know. Let's watch it together, because this is interesting. This is kind of where the switch flipped for me, is what I'm trying to say. If I was able to speak the language properly, you'd hear that. So anyway, I'm taking him over here. The Ranger's standing on the opposite side, and up on that little throne there, the ad's gonna spawn. So you're gonna see it shortly. Hopefully, I show it pretty clearly in the video. But effectively, what we're doing here, yeah, you can kind of see it at the top of the screen there. There you go. I show it more clearly. So this druid is rooting it, and he's rooting it with mass entangle, and presumably regular entanglement as well. And he's literally just keeping them rooted the entire time. So we never deal with them. So this time there's 5 total. There's also these golden orbs floating around, and they do a lot of damage. We tested it out on Heroic. Even with AMS, it instantly ate the AMS and did some damage to me. So I'd imagine on Mythic 0 with this difficulty, the gear I have currently, basically be a nightmare. I don't think I would have any hope of surviving if I got hit by one, and then any other melee damage would probably kill me. Maybe I get hit by one. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think I dodged them well. But anyway, I'm quite marveled at the fact that this guy is literally just going to keep these mobs rooted the entire fight, which is absolutely insane. You can also still spell steal the Gilded Claws ability. It's pretty good. So that time, yeah, you see there's only 4 puddles. So one person is causing her to heal a bit. Now, presumably, if all 5 people caused her to heal, I think she would just heal the full. Based on the proportions there, she basically healed about 1 or 2% every tick of that with only 1 person. So if it was potentially 2% per 5 people, that would just heal the full. So that would be unfortunate, obviously, but I don't know. This fight doesn't really change, from the tank's point of view, but presumably you definitely got to deal with these puddles and this ad. And, I think realistically, you're not going to be doing this. I don't think anybody's, maybe like top end Mythic Plus groups are going to be doing this, but in your typical pug group, you won't be seeing a bunch of rooting happening, especially because you just won't have a Resto Druid. I don't know what other Druid specs have this spell. I think Bombkin, and maybe all specs have it, but I think maybe Bombkin, maybe Bear too, but I don't believe Bear would realistically be able to do it. I don't know anything about this spell. I haven't seen it used in a very long time. There's a couple things you could root in, the old Legion Mythic Plus dungeons, but nothing that you ever really needed mass root for. And you definitely need it. Well, what we're doing in this fight and the next fight. Holy shit, you're gonna need it. So anyway, there's gonna be look at they're running now. Somebody gripped one. I don't know. I turned away. I wasn't really paying attention to it because I started taking damage. Looks like, was there 5 now? 5 total, and they're all rooted. It's pretty interesting. Of course, if I was a better player, I'd be able to just grip them all together. Then you'd be able to root them a lot easier, but can't really grip them all when they're rooted. So I don't know. It's pretty nuts, though. I mean, we got 200 traps. We got all kinds of roots. It's just insane. This group is they're serious. I don't know any of these people. Maybe you guys do. Maybe these guys are top players or something like that. I don't know them by name or anything. It's funny, when we were doing the raid testing, people were telling me that I was actually in the group with people who are among the top warlocks in the world. But anyway, these guys are just guys I found on the random dungeon finder there. So anyway, now we're on the final boss, and if you watch this live, oh boy, this is probably the hardest boss ever in any ever 5-man. I've never seen a fight this complicated before, and I think it might be bugged. I think it's definitely overtuned one way or the other. It's not necessarily overtuned. We're definitely undertuned. Our characters ourselves really struggle to complete this encounter. But there's basically 3 points of interest on the encounter and one massive change from normal. Now, instead of spawning a single ad that needs to be killed, he spawns or she spawns an ad on every non-tank player. And we didn't try it with 3 tanks, or with 2 tanks, that is. We should have, actually, because presumably there would have only been 3 ads. That's something that happens when you solo mobs, or bosses, that is. The mechanics that can't hit tanks just don't happen, even if you're alone. But anyway, there you go. You'll see it. I'm not showing it. This is one of the first pulls. Another big thing here is this castable debuff that she does. absolutely rips people open, as you see, literally one shot. Well, the guy was a bit low, but hit him for about 90% of his health at least. Now, of course, my interrupt's off CD, so I'm just sitting there not using it. Main part of that is because Plater isn't working properly. I can't see what needs to be interrupted, but anyway, so it's going to spawn 4 ads each time. So the strategy that this group wanted to employ was wait until there's 8 ads, so 2 spawns, and then light them up. And they were going to root the first set. So ads and basically the only reason we didn't root constantly was because the root isn't the CD is not short enough. So I guess if we had a second druid, we probably would have just constantly rooted mobs and never fought them. But I don't know. I think they actually do like they like have a line targeting the person that they copied. So again, presumably it's doing damage to them of some sort. But anyway, you kind of see it there. You're gonna see it. I showed 2 more pulls on this because this is really insane. This fight is insane. But so yeah, so you have to deal with that. Ideally I'd be helping kill them, but I have to keep the boss's positioning adequate as well. And I have to interrupt the boss. And I can't do that. She cast it too frequently, so we need at least 1 ranged interrupter as well. So I don't know. It's pretty interesting. This is, like I said, if you watch me do this live, we spent over an hour in here. It's probably about an hour and 20 minutes spent here. So anyway, there you go. First set, it's out. Guy roots him. Pretty straightforward. 1 gets out. This is, I guess we fast forwarded a bit. So the 2 sets are out now. And 1 set was rooted. First one is handled. The second set's out now. We got to kill them all. We got Hunters. Hunters are doing a good job. Frosty K, like I said, that guy normally plays Blood, so he's not like perfect at Frost, but he's pretty good. It should be good enough for Mythic 0. But there you go. Now here's a good look at it. Everybody stacks up. All spawns the ads directly on top of each other. It does do some damage. People are taking damage from them spawning. Not exactly sure. Then there's also a complicating factor here. The little ghostly spiders roaming around there doing damage. If you get hit by them, they're also putting a purple puddle down. The main reason we're doing the strategy as it is, if you watch the live thing, you've seen that. We spent about probably 40 minutes talking about this fight. Really only had 6 or 7 pulls. But anyway, the reason we did this was because when the ads die, they spawn a purple thing as well. So again, we thought that the room would just be completely filled up if we didn't move at the right times, all this. It was really quite a nightmare. But the last pull, we do something very interesting. It's a lot smarter. We don't kill the fight, by the way. Just no hope of killing this fight. It's just, I think the way you're probably supposed to do it is you're probably just supposed to kill them. Everybody gets out of range. Ideally, you would stack. One way or the other, you're going to have to stack. There's no way unless each individual could solo their own ad, which probably is definitely going to happen at some point. But on really high Mythic Plus, this is where you're going to have. This is basically me testing Mythic 30 right now. On live equivalent. That's the way it feels. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 25 or something like that. But this is harder than any Mythic Plus I've ever done. The mechanics alone are so complicated. And basically, this is basically like a Mythic raid fight right now. I said that while we were live. It's incredibly mechanically intensive. If I miss an interrupt, somebody dies. If the boss is too close or whatever, the ads get to her, obviously it's a wipe. If we don't root or CC the ads properly. Look at that. Look how fast they run. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. This is definitely that. So that's the part that I think is not intended. The mobs run 200% speed at this boss. And that is obviously a big difference from normal. I really don't think it was that way or intended to be that way at all at any point. So I think that might be bugged in some way. Maybe get fixed. If they're going to do anything on this fight to make it easier, they should just make them move a little less fast because that is ridiculous. They sprint. So anyway, we're trying something a little bit different. I really wanted to. The way I wanted to do it was to basically have them run as far back as possible. But they're claiming that there's no way the Death Knight's not going to make it if range were as far away as possible. So what we're doing now is we're rooting the mobs, okay? And then everybody's going to get even further behind. So basically they're at red the first time. And now the second time, they're going to go way behind red, if you see it here. And the plan is to drop the ads even further behind red so that by the time they get to red, the root is up again. But obviously you see one get through and then it works. I guess it does work. So now we have both sets rooted. So it's a pretty smart play, right? You get so far behind them and then slow them so that by the time they get to red, they can get rooted on top of the other ones. So that actually worked out well. But again, it's just so much damage. There's so much stuff happening. I don't know. So they're going to do it again, and now, they're going to have to root again. Doesn't look like it worked that time. We got him stunned there. I don't know. But obviously, once they get by, that's the plan gone, because now he's not going to be able to root. Maybe we could have gripped him together, and then he could have rooted, but I don't know. This fight's insane. I don't know what to say. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But this was absolutely an insane afternoon here. I literally did not expect... I had no expectations of this whatsoever. I knew it was going to be fun. I love Mythic Dungeons, but this was incredibly difficult. And obviously under-geared, so, not to say that this is going to be really tough, but these may be the hardest Mythic Dungeons and Mythic Plus, as well. This may be the hardest version of 5-mans we've ever gotten. If it goes this way, then... especially with the gearing indications, I don't even know what to say about that. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, hope to be testing more of these this coming week. Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm going to just try to do even more 5-mans on the beta there. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, hope to see you there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.